Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Elliot and Paul. We have just seen Chris Eubank Jr. stop Liam Smith in 10 rounds in Manchester. A very one-sided fight, an outcome not many people saw in the sense that Eubank won every round, dominated the fight, and just really put the cherry on the top there by getting that stoppage late on. Gents, it's good just to kind of do this video without any kind of chat off camera, so we can just kind of get your thoughts. Elliot, how surprised are you? What's kind of going through your mind at the moment?
I'm oscillating really between surprise, arousal, shock, all of those, mate. I think that we did the final prediction show, didn't we? And I was unwavering in that. First, shout out to you. You called the Eubank stoppage. I didn't. I thought Smith had beat him again. Said it with Paul when we did the preview as well. So I am surprised. I had it sort of 45-55 going in, favouring Smith, so not massively, but I didn't see that happening. I thought maybe Eubank on points if he was going to win. But you have to just hold your hands up and say superb performance because Eubank really it had everything that I wanted to see. It had speed differential, it had a bit of spite in there as well. Distance work was fantastic. Didn't take too many digs either, so the chin test didn't necessarily happen the way I expected. But I'm actually really happy for him, mate. He was written off by so many people, me included, and to see someone publicly get their lick back like that today is just I just love to see him. I love to see it. I'm genuinely just delighted for him.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that like Eubank winning this fight, that's not the massive shock here. I know that you and Greg both said yesterday you were going with Smith, but it was close. You weren't going to put your mortgage on Smith winning, but it's the dominance, and it was just such a mature and controlled performance by Eubank. He didn't do anything wild or anything stupid, and he won. Look, this might sound a bit over the top to some people, but if you scored boxing in minutes rather than rounds, he arguably won every minute of that fight. I'm not like round one was a scrappy round, and maybe Smith got to connect a couple of times, but you could argue Eubank won every minute of every round. Paul, what are your thoughts? What did you think of what we've just seen?
Oh man, that was a masterclass. It was a pure masterclass from Eubank. Given how the first fight went and how conclusive it was, there were people saying, but they maybe didn't need to see a rematch. It's only because Eubank was the A side going into the first fight that there was a rematch. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, if Eubank had won the first fight, would there have been a rematch? No. Um, so people didn't think we needed the rematch. Now you look at that and you think it's such a contrast to the first fight. And I can't pinpoint whether it's, the inclusion of Bomac in the corner or whatever, or he just took Smith lightly last time, or it was an elbow. It might well have been, but honestly, like that was a masterclass, as you said. He won every minute of every round. Barely took a punch. Looking at his face, you'd think he'd maybe just, got a sweat on in the gym, done 10 rounds on the bag, bit of pad work and stuff. Honestly, the only blood on his face was blood of Smith. It was incredible. He won every minute of every round, and that was probably, yeah, I would say definitely Chris Eubank Jr.'s best performance.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, but I just think that there's no debate here. We've seen Eubank impress in the past. I just think that the fact that he got that stoppage at the end after winning every round, it's the perfect performance. That's, in my opinion, the perfect way to win a fight, to dominate your opponent and then stop them at the end. It would have been a little bit disappointing if Eubank had won on points, because we've seen him do that before when he's dominated fights and then just kind of coasted and drifted off at the end. But the fact he did get that stoppage as well. You mentioned kind of the new trainer coming in there, Paul. What I want to ask is, what's the one reason you think Eubank won tonight? Is it the new trainer? Is it something Liam Smith didn't do? Obviously, there are a variety of factors here, but what's the one that speaks out to you?
That's a really difficult question, a really difficult one to answer. Um, I would probably go with just I'm not saying Eubank overlooked Smith the first time around, but part of me kind of believes he might have been like, this guy can't beat me no matter what he does. And it happened, and Eubank's like, oh shit, how on earth did that happen? And this cannot happen again. So he's fine tuned, and he's like, no stone unturned, so to speak. I know they say that about every camp, but I reckon he's being throughout this camp. Like, I simply cannot lose this fight. And let's not forget the amount of pressure on Eubank's shoulders there. To put that amount of that performance in under that amount of pressure where you lose and your career's over.
Yeah,
Like that was special. But if I had to pinpoint one particular reason, maybe he thought I just cannot lose to this guy again. It just cannot happen. And he just for that reason put everything into his camp and he had everything right going into that ring, and it showed on the night.
yeah. I think there's it's unfair to ask you to pick one factor out because there's so many. But I just think another one is I think Eubank. Look, he got stopped badly in that first fight, but I think he would have got some confidence from those first 3 rounds, knowing that he can compete with Smith. He can connect with him. He just needs to be a bit smarter in his work. Elliot, same question to you. What's the one factor that reaches out to you here?
Tough, man. That you asked me for one again. I'm thinking of five, but I'll give you one. I think you know what I'm going to settle on actually is what you were actually saying earlier. I think it's maturity for me. I think there were periods. I think it was the fifth, maybe the ninth, where he essentially looked to stop Smith, and you think I'm sitting there thinking, shit, like he's going to gas here. Like if he goes too hard, you know, obviously there's going to be like the next couple of rounds could be difficult for him, but he didn't in a way. He stood off, and you know he's regrouped essentially as well. And I think he paced the fight really really well. There were other sort of little things that I think people were crediting to the training relationship that he's got, like the sense he was moving right, for example, a lot more than he used to. The fact that also he took absolutely no risks. Like he essentially just dived in, didn't he, and held every single time the distance got quite close. He was just wrestling Liam Smith, frankly, when he was in range. So I think for me it was just putting in mature performance together. You could see he was laser focused on the walk in as well. And I thought
Yeah.
it looked good. Everything looked good on the walk in. Visually he looked good. Obviously, you know, his outfit, but like in his eyes, he looked terrific, I thought. Coming in, to be honest, I think his concentration levels felt all of those 10 rounds were frankly superb. We've seen him switch off with Liam. We thought Liam Williamson, we saw him start brilliantly and then switch off sort of midway through the fighting, sort of coast. Like you said, it was disappointing to coast to a point when we've seen him do that. Saw him do it then. And I was a bit concerned he might do that here, but there was none of that, was there? It was just constant. When he sensed he had Smith in trouble as well and put that finish in as well, I think it was a mature performance with great concentration and great focus. Brilliant.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to answer the question as well. I was watching the weigh-in yesterday, and I thought that I just don't think, and if you compare the weigh-in to January, Liam Smith was not in the same shape he was in January. And I just think throughout fight week, whether it be or kind of fight week things like the gloves are off with Johnny Nelson, the public workout, Liam Smith, I'm not gonna say arrogant. I just think he looked too comfortable. He looked too confident. He didn't look like someone who had a fight in a couple of days, in a big fight as well. And that just kept them throughout fight week, that raised more and more alarm bells to the point I was looking at him at the weigh-in and I was just thinking, you've not trained as hard for this fight as you have for the fight in January. And that's leading on to just why I personally just went with Eubank, thought Eubank had a good chance. So it's complacency. I wonder what Liam Smith's thinking now. Not too much from me, guys. We're going to do another video on what's next for Eubank Jr., whether that's a trilogy with Liam Smith, a fight with Conor Benn, other options as well. Is this his final fight at middleweight? It could be. And I look forward to discussing that. But we'll leave it there. Please do look out for this video. It will be out Sunday afternoon at some point. But yeah, we'll leave it there before Elliot Griggs' smile gets any wider. Chris Eubank Jr. has stopped Liam Smith in a decent sized upset in the 10th round in Manchester tonight. Paul, Elliot, thank you very much for your time. We'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, mate.
Mate, good. Thank you very much, guys, for watching.